Hello everyone, my name is Jackie Lucas and I'm Learning Services Coordinator for the Australian Library and Information Association.
And my name is Kate Bunker, ALIA's Director of Learning. And together Jackie and I make up the ALIA Learning Team. Our role is to support everything to do with education and professional development for the library and information sector members. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're meeting on Ngunnawal and Ngambri lands and pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging.
Kate and I want to support our ALIA members to feel motivated and informed about ongoing learning, and we want to address some of the questions that we often receive. We also want to build our shared narrative by making sure we're very clear about how we communicate aspects of the ALIA PD scheme. You might not yet be in the PD scheme or a member that is an active member of the scheme, but either way, we hope you're going to find the content here useful. And today we're talking about what is a learning reflection.
So we say that learning reflections are at the heart of the PD scheme. The more reflective you are, the more effective you are. But why do we emphasise this? Why reflect?
Well, everybody experiences learning in different ways, but learning can only be useful to us if we connect what we learn to what we already know and what is helpful for us. Reflective practice is simply any instance where you think critically about an action, thought, or experience. This thinking then enables the increase of your self-awareness and professional competence. So in the ALIA PD scheme, we ask that you write a short reflection for every PD activity so that your learning becomes a conscious and therefore more valuable process. In the ALIA PD scheme, we ask that learning reflections are a minimum of 50 words. It's a pretty small amount. And a good framework to use when you're writing is to answer, what did I learn and how will my new learning impact my practice? If you answer those two questions, then you've written an effective learning reflection.
And if you feel like writing learning reflections is a chore or a bit awkward, or you're having trouble getting started, today we're going to provide you with 12 tips that will hopefully give you a fresh perspective on reflections and help you get the most out of your professional development experiences. But first, we just need to get something out of the way. Sometimes to understand something, you have to acknowledge what it's not. And I think it's really worthwhile that we state this. Learning reflections are not just a description.
No, you can certainly include a description of the PD activity in your reflection. In fact, starting with a description of what the PD was about, what occurred, can be helpful, as it can be a trigger for further writing and it can form your first paragraph. However, your writing must also contain reflection, that metacognitive element where you are aware of the learning that has taken place. So today we're going to look at our 12 tips for reflecting that we hope will take your learning reflections next level. And the first tip that we have is to be honest. It's as simple as that. Don't be afraid to just say exactly how you felt about a learning activity. It's your learning reflections, and you don't need to sugarcoat experiences or attempt to come across in a way that's not authentic to your own professional development. Be subjective, say what you really thought and felt, what feelings and perceptions surrounded the experience. Put your brain on the shelf and write from the heart, because you can always go back and edit once you've poured everything out. Just don't hesitate to be completely honest.
And tied in with being honest is our second tip, that all PD is harvest. Even bad learning experiences have something to teach us about ourselves and others. So if a presentation was dreadful, well, what can you learn from that? If a research experience was poorly planned, what did you learn? Learning reflections clarify our core values and strengthen our integrity to make better decisions. So find the harvest in everything.
And tip number 3 is that reflections are best when they are structured. Now, there are countless models of reflection to be found in the literature, and you can develop a framework or a model that works for you. But personally, I work with the twofold model that I mentioned earlier. What did I learn and what is the impact? It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Just make sure that you're not writing a sole description of the event. It needs to contain that metacognitive element of being conscious of your learning.
And learning reflections are best when they're part of a disciplined habit or routine that is documented as soon as possible after the activity has taken place, or part of a scheduled activity. So writing your immediate thoughts and feelings after an event can provide an interesting record for further reflection, and it just feels good to have it done. So try as much as possible to get into the routine of logging and reflecting on your PD as soon as possible after an event. It does get easier the more you do it, and you can always add to it further on. So your routine might be a fortnightly or monthly calendar activity, or immediately after the activity. Whatever works for you, find your own routine.
And another way to approach your reflection is simply to ask, from the whole experience, what was my take-home message? What was the key experience, the learning that's going to stay with me? You might have attended a week-long conference, but come away with one major insight, and that's what you can reflect upon in a distilled way. Writing learning reflections can help us process and absorb new concepts, and can help us to locate that shining gem of knowledge amongst an information onslaught.
What we also hear back from members repeatedly is that it's amazing what you learn about yourself when you participate in PD activities such as the ALIA mentoring scheme or getting involved in contributing to the sector. Your learning reflections can be as much about personal discovery as they are about professional development. So when you practice reflecting and being more self-aware of your learning, you can actually learn a lot about yourself. So hold the mirror up and evaluate your personal experience. Have your soft skills improved by engaging in a particular activity?
And our seventh tip is to be collaborative. This is a real next level tip, and it isn't always possible, but it's really important to look out for opportunities where you can possibly connect your PD experience with others. It can really deepen your experience of PD to find out what others thought or felt about a particular event, and listening to the perspective of others around an experience can shape how you reflect. So if you're lucky enough to be in the situation, check in with colleagues about PD experiences, and perhaps if you attend an event with work colleagues or even friends, take the initiative of writing a joint learning reflection after a PD activity. We certainly don't mind if members submit the same learning reflection if it's been written collaboratively.
This is also an opportunity to develop your reflective writing skills. So reflections are not always linear, and writing about the learning process can develop expressive communication habits and self-esteem along the way. So what were your shining creative moments? And you can also be creative in how you present your reflections. It could be a tweet, a vlog, a poem, an infographic, a sketch note. It's all valid if it expresses your awareness of your own learning. So attach that to your record and away we go.
And when Kate and I are reading learning reflections, what we love to see is when people write about the impact the PD has on themselves individually and in the workplace moving forward. So what will be different now that you have the new learning? Will it impact you, others, your community? Of course, going back to our first tip, which was honesty, if your learning hasn't been particularly impactful, then you can acknowledge that too, and perhaps consider what you can do yourself to engage in PD in the future that is impactful for you.
balance with the practical side of PD. So you can approach reflection from a very practical standpoint. What does the experience mean in the context of your workplace and your career goals? Did your professional competence improve? Did you learn new skills? What's going into your professional toolkit? And new learning is rarely isolated. It is connected to your current interests and your prior knowledge and experience. So this is our 11th tip. Where possible, connect your learning to connect your PD to prior learning. What was your previously held understanding that created cognitive dissonance? Or how does it build on what you already know? Where might this new PD take you?
And one of the great benefits of being disciplined about logging and reflecting on your PD is that over time, your learning reflections become more than isolated activities. They connect to form a rich narrative of professional growth. Especially in mid or later career points, your depth of experience becomes much denser and you tend to forget that you're still making progress and renewing your skills and keeping up to date. And this is where your learning reflections can provide an incredible reminder to us of just how much we actually do. And this becomes especially important when you're looking to move sectors or going to a new job. You can select items from your narrative that apply to specific selection criteria. I know myself, I get so enthusiastic about PD and participating, I'm on to the next thing, and important bits of the story can get lost over time, but then I go back to my learning reflections and can actually acknowledge how much I've grown and how much I've done.
So where do you log your reflections? As an ALIA PD Scheme member, we really encourage you to use the ALIA PD tracking tool, which is part of your member benefits. The advantage of the tracking tool is that it stays with you. You can use a spreadsheet or Word doc if you prefer, but it certainly makes it a lot easier from our end to support you if you document your learning on the MyPD tracking tool. It's easy to use, covers off on all the key areas of information that are required to log and reflect, and you can also upload documents, certificates, and links.
So there we have it. We hope that we've provided you with ideas that will make writing reflections just that bit more easier and perhaps exciting for you. Remember, reflections aren't about proving, but about improving. And we hope that we've given you a new lens and some inspiration to feel good about the role of reflective practice in your professional development.
So if you have any questions, you can contact Jackie or myself at pd@alia.org.au. We're here to support you. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And if you've learned something new today, if your previously held ideas have been challenged or you're inspired to try something different with your reflective practice, then you can actually log and reflect on it as PD in the ALIA PD scheme. It's all about professional growth and sharing. So happy learning, everyone. Thank you.